So you want your Anger Eidolon to attack with fire? Do you want your Dragon Eidolon to swipe with lightning? So the Summoner is the second of the two classes in the new Secrets of Magic book released by Paizo. Their initial proficiencies start out as they are trained in perception, they have expert fortitude and will saves and are trained in reflex saves, they are trained in one or more skills determined by their Eidolon selection, as well as 3 plus their intelligence modifier. They start with 10 hit points plus their constitution modifier. Their key ability score is charisma. They are trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks. They are trained in unarmored only. And they are trained in the spell DC and the spell attack rolls of the tradition based on their Eidolon. Before we go much further, we got to talk about what is an Eidolon. It's an essential core mechanic of the Summoner class. An Eidolon is usually an otherworldly being that you summon with your life force into the plane that you are at the moment to help fight for you and to use all of its crazy and powerful abilities. At first level, you select a particular type of Eidolon, which determines where it comes from, the type of magic that you cast, as well as a number of other abilities. One of the abilities that a first level summoner gets is called Manifest Eidolon, which lets you, it's a 3-action activity, which lets you manifest your Eidolon, or if it's already manifested, dismisses your Eidolon. Your Eidolon must stay within 100 feet or it immediately dismisses itself. On the turn that you manifest your Eidolon, it can take 1 action. So we had many classes before have either familiars or animal companions or ability to summon monsters onto the field during battle. Most of those have what's called the minion trait, which has certain restrictions on what it can do and how the minion acts. The Eidolon is different because the Eidolon is a fully intelligent and cognizant being that you summon to your side. It does not have the minion trait. The Summoner and the Eidolon share both reactions, actions, and some feats that allow them both to act at the same time. The connection between the Summoner and the Eidolon is so deep that they are able to communicate telepathically even when the Eidolon is not manifested. Each round, you can choose any of your actions, which include free actions and reactions, to either be done by your Summoner or by your Eidolon, with a few exceptions. The second ability that the Summoner gets is called Act Together. And when you select either you or your Eidolon to take an activity, and they do that activity, then the other person who didn't take an action gets to do 1 action. So, the Summoner wants to cast a spell like Burning Hands. They cast Burning Hands, and then their Eidolon is allowed to do something. Maybe they stride, maybe they strike, maybe they make a skill check. Their action is part of the Act Together action. So for instance, if the Summoner spends a 3-action activity, say to summon another monster to the field, the Eidolon can still take 1 action. So in essence, Act Together gives the person who does not act a free single action. This ability also lets you and the Eidolon select separate exploration activities during exploration mode. Another ability that the Summoner gets is called Share Senses. A 1-action activity, and once they use this, they lose all the sense of their self, meaning they cannot see or hear from themselves, but they then get to see from the perspective of their Eidolon, including any senses that the Eidolon possesses. At first level, the Summoner also gains an evolution feat that they can take to adjust their Eidolon. Sounds pretty good, but this connection comes at a cost. You and the Eidolon share the same health pool. So, if your Eidolon takes damage, you take damage. If you heal either the Eidolon or the Summoner, they gain the effectiveness of that heal. While you or your Eidolon may be affected by different conditions at different times, you only ever take the most serious of the condition if you both have the same condition. So, if your Eidolon is slowed 1 and you are slowed 1, you don't lose 2 actions, you only lose 1. But you always take the most severe version of a condition. So, if the Summoner is slowed 1, but the Eidolon is slowed 2, then the Summoner would lose 2 actions at the start of their turn. If both the Eidolon and the Summoner are affected by an area of effect spell that does damage or heals, you only take the greater amount of the effect. You never apply the same effect 2 times. So if you both got hit by a fireball, you're only going to take that damage 1 time. Your Eidolon can only equip certain items. Those items have to have the Eidolon trait, and the Eidolon can only invest a maximum of 2 items. But because of this connection, some of the magic items on your summoner do affect your Eidolon. Any bonuses to your perception and skills also affect the Eidolon. Your Eidolon increases its AC based on any armor potency runes or braces of armor that your summoner happens to be wearing. Your Eidolon benefits from the fundamental and property runes if your summoner is wielding a hand wraps of mighty blows. If your summoner is wielding a magic weapon, the summoner may choose to invest that item, something you normally don't have to invest. But if they do, the Eidolon also benefits from the fundamental and property runes of that magic weapon. As we talked about in the Magus video, which will be a card right over here if you want to see that video, the Magus and the Summoner gain spell slots in a slightly different way than most other spellcasters. At first level, they gain spell slots like any other spellcaster. They gain 5 cantrips, and they gain 1 first level spell slot. As they get higher in level, they eventually get 2 first level spell slots, and then they eventually get second level spell slots. Caveat in this is once they gain the ability to cast third level spells, they actually lose their first level spell slots. So in essence, they will only ever have 4 spell slots, 2 at their highest and 2 at their second highest. The Summoner, unlike the Magus, doesn't cast prepared, they cast with a spell repertoire, which means they can cast any spell that they know in any spell slot they choose of the appropriate level. So remember, if you learn a first level magic missile, once you hit higher levels and you put that into a 5th level spell slot, normally that would still act as a first level spell in a 5th level spell slot. Once a summoner becomes 3rd level, all of their spells become what's called signature spells, which means the summoner is able to freely heighten the spell to whatever spell slot that they're putting it into, getting all the benefits of the heightened spell if the spell has a heightened effect. Summoners also get what's called linked spells. These are focus spells specific to the summoner. And they follow the same general rules as all focus spells for all classes, meaning you can only get up to 3 focus points. Most focus spells are gained through feat selection, but all summoners gain at first level the Evolution Surge linked spell. Linked cantrips are special linked spells that don't cost focus points. You can cast them as many times as you want. Generally, only feats give you more linked cantrips, but every summoner gets the Boost Eidolon linked cantrip. As the summoner gains in levels, they can choose different class feats. Some of these feats have the Evolution tag. The Evolution tag is specifically for the Eidolon, which gives them different moves or different abilities as the Eidolon and the summoner level up. There's also a new trait called Tandem. Some of these feats have the Tandem trait, which means that you and your Eidolon are acting together in some way. If your Eidolon is not manifested, or for some reason you and your Eidolon are actually combined together, you can't generally use Tandem feats. So we've been talking a lot about summoners and their Eidolons, and but not really what they can do and what they look like and what abilities they have. So we're going to go into it. At first level, you have to pick what kind of Eidolon you have. Remember, the choice here not only determines the bonus skill or skills that you may get, but also the type of magic that the summoner actually casts. So the arcane type Eidolons are the Dragon Eidolons and the Construct Eidolons. The Divine Eidolons are Angel, Demon, and Psychopomp Eidolons. Cult Eidolons are called Phantoms, and the Phantoms generally take form of a particular type of emotion, such as anger or devotion. And the Primal Eidolons usually take form of either beasts, plants, fae, or some other combination. So when you look at the Eidolon selection, you first pick a type of Eidolon. Let's say we're going to pick the Angel Eidolon. Some of the Eidolons have alignment restrictions, meaning that the alignment of the actual Eidolon must be what is listed. This does not affect the summoner's alignment. It gives you a selection of whether you want it to be medium or small. You have to pick a primary and secondary attack type for each Eidolon. Now, each Eidolon has a suggested version, but you can always go back to the Eidolon section, and it goes into what kind of primary and secondary attacks that you can choose from. Next, it gives you 2 different stat blocks that you can choose from. So, in the case of the Angel, you have the Angelic Avenger, which focuses more on strength and constitution, or the Angelic Emissary, which focuses more on dexterity and charisma. They're the associated skills that you as the summoner would learn, become trained in, based on your Eidolon selection. Any extra senses that the Eidolon may have, in this case, dark vision, and the language that the Eidolon speaks. So here's the difference between Eidolons and most other companions. Most other companions can't speak. But remember, you can speak telepathically with your Eidolon. Your Eidolon also speaks the language. They also have some sort of benefit. In the case of the Angel, your Eidolon is from the Celestial Realm. Its unarmed strikes deal an additional 1 point of good damage. Additionally, it can make it non-lethal attacks without taking the -2 penalty. At 7th and 17th levels, each Eidolon gains extra powers and abilities. In the case of the Angel, they get Traveler's Aura, which protects anyone within a 20-foot radius, 20-foot emanation of the Eidolon from extreme heat and cold. At 17th level, this ability improves. Also, at 17th level, the Eidolon also gains an additional ability, which can be more actions or more passive benefits. The Angel gets Angelic Mercy. Your Eidolon's angelic power allows it to assuage a variety of ailments. Your Eidolon can cast Remove Curse, Remove Disease, Remove Fear, Remove Paralysis once per day as a 9th level caster. And keep in mind, this brings up an important point. Eidolons generally cannot cast spells. So they cannot they cannot use the spell slots or cast cantrips that the summoner knows. Same goes for the summoner. If your Eidolon is able to cast certain spells, the summoner can't then go cast those spells. It must be the Eidolon. So if the Eidolon is not manifested, you don't have access to those spells. Now, we're not going to go through all the different Eidolons. There are many different types and many different options for you to upgrade your Eidolons as you gain more levels and you gain more evolution feats. Another thing about Eidolons and the summoners is not only do you share actions, and some feats also are shared between the Eidolon and the summoner, but you also share multi-attack penalties. So if the summoner or the Eidolon generates a multi-attack penalty, meaning that they struck or cast an attack spell or some other strike during their turn, if the other companion, meaning the summoner if the Eidolon had struck, or the Eidolon if the summoner cast an attack spell, that multi-attack penalty carries over to the other person. Now, as you gain higher levels as a summoner, there are many different directions you can go in. You can focus all of your effort onto your Eidolon, making your Eidolon a force to be reckoned with in combat, making your opponents have to deal with your Eidolon at some point. And you can boost it with your spells and your cantrips. Or you can make the summoner the more of the focus. So have the Eidolon protect the summoner and have the Eidolon be more of a nuisance where the summoner is the main event. Or you can have a balanced approach where you and the Eidolon both work together, and maybe some feats empower your Eidolon and maybe some feats empower what the summoner can do, and you work in conjunction together. There's also a variety of focus spells and focus cantrips that you can collect as you gain higher levels. There's even a way to gain attack of opportunity for your Eidolon called Eidolon's Opportunity. You can take something like Master Summoner, converting one of your spell slots as a summoner into 2 spell slots that you can only slot summon spells into, increasing your capacity for casting magic. Or you can take Ostentatious Arrival. Anytime you manifest your Eidolon or you cast a summon spell, a 3-action summon spell, they arrive in an explosion of fire. Or if the creature that you're summoning has a different energy type, they explode into that kind of damage. Or if you like to play more of an upfront summoner and fight next to your Eidolon, you can take Tandem Strike, a 2-action activity that allows you and your Eidolon to strike the same foe. But your multi-attack penalty doesn't accrue until after this action is complete, and it does count as 2 attacks. Let's say you want to focus not only on summoning or manifesting your Eidolon, but you also want to focus on summoning other creatures as well. And you can take something like Boost Summons. Anytime you cast your Boost Eidolon cantrip, it also affects all of your summoned creatures within 60 feet. And like I said, we're not going to go over every feat, but there's a lot of different options for the Eidolon, depending on which kind of focus that they want. Do they want to focus on summoning lots of creatures to the field? Do they want to focus on making their Eidolon very capable combatant in the fight? Do they want to focus on themselves and being a more competent spellcaster while having the Eidolon annoy and irritate and be a threat to the enemies so they don't get to the summoner? Or do you want to have a more of a balanced approach and take a little bit of everything? So at the end of the day, why would you want to be a summoner? But the interesting thing about the summoner is summoners never by themselves. Summoner always has opportunity to bring in their Eidolon, to be able to defend them, to attack the enemy. Even if they wanted to ride the Eidolon, there's rules for that. If you need a flanking partner, if you want to play a more melee-focused summoner, then you always have a flanking partner available. You could also summon additional monsters to the field. You can be generally a nuisance to everyone around you in combat just because you have so many options to summon monsters, have your Eidolon. But remember, the Eidolon does come at a cost of you take the Eidolon's damage. You and the Eidolon share a pool of hit points. But for this reason, remember, the summoner starts with 10 hit points versus the Magus is 8. And even some other spellcasters even have 6 hit points. So the summoner is a bit hardier of a spellcaster, but also they have limited spells. So you have to use those cantrips and use your Eidolon to the best of their ability, as well as weaving in your own actions so you can so you and your Eidolon can benefit from the act together activity. So what does everyone else think? Are you going to be more Magus focused and fly into combat with weapons and magic flying around? Or are you going to be summoning your Eidolon and summons and different creatures to protect yourself as you cast your magic? And you bolster your summons with all your cantrips and abilities. Sound off in the comments below. If you want to hear us talk more about any other classes, send so in the comments. This is Steve from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gamed. May all your die rolls be 20s, and may you always roll max damage. See you later.